Hello. Thank you for joining us for this artist conversation with the Bridge Art Gallery. This is presented as a part of the programming for the Expressive Creative Soul art exhibition currently on display. This live conversation will explore the artistic journey of Serron Green, one of the participating artists featured in this year's Expressive Creative Soul art exhibition. And we're going to discuss the influences that have shaped his work, as well as his practice that bridges art, historical narrative, and contemporary visual storytelling. So we're very excited to host this conversation, and we're going to highlight two of the works that's currently featured as a part of this art exhibition. And those two works include Big Paws on a Puppy in 1960 What? The goal of the discussion is to give audiences a deeper insight into the ideas, the historical references, and the artistic decisions behind the work. So, who are we going to talk to? We're going to talk to Serron Green, and we're going to find out a little bit more about him. But before we bring him on camera, we're going to talk about who he is. He is a multidisciplinary artist whose work bridges street art and historical narrative, drawing from decades of lived experiences and, of course, cultural exploration. He was raised in Newark, New Jersey during the height of the Black Panther movement and coming of age during the 1980s graffiti movement. Serron developed a visual language rooted in resistance, creativity, and self-definition. His layered compositions reflect a deeper engagement with Black identity, collective memory, and the physicality of urban life. Serron's ability to collapse the boundaries between fine art and street culture has earned him recognition at institutions including the Newark Museum of Art, the Black Panther Museum, and of course, his work is also included in the permanent collection of the Huey P. Newton Foundation, as well as the Thelonious Monk Foundation. His artistic practice has also been shaped by extensive travel across Europe, the Caribbean, and the Americas, bringing a global perspective to his exploration of history, culture, and identity. So let's jump into the conversation by bringing on the artist, Serron Green. Hello there, Mr. Green.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
You made
That's
me
a
sound like
long
you made me
resume
sound
you
really
have there.
important.
Well, I mean, you've been doing a lot
Yeah, I was,
in of the time that we've worked with you at the Bridge Art Gallery, and it's for Christopher and I, it's been wonderful to see how your practice has expanded, how your work has evolved, but then also staying on theme to who you are.
thank you. I appreciate you guys. I definitely liked working with you guys for the past 10 years. It doesn't seem like 10 years went by, but it did.
I
So
know it's gone by
I'm just happy to be here.
so great. So let's jump right in. So, Serron, you grew up in Newark, New Jersey, during a very powerful cultural and political movement in American history. How did that environment shape your worldview and your artistic identity?
Um, well, yeah, I did grow up in Newark, and just growing up in my household, my parents were always kind of had their finger on the pulse of the city itself, which just trickled down to me. My father was very unapologetically Black. So just growing up in Newark, I was constantly hearing about different political figures in my house, whether it be posters you read in books, you read in, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Um, I also grew up kind of going between Newark and Philly. So Philly also has a similar history as Newark. So that definitely influenced the content and which I do now.
And how about growing up in the 1980s during like the graffiti, you know, uh, peak era? How did that influence your artistic practice?
Growing up in the '80s, which just showed my age, thank you. Um, it what it did was it gave my current uh, style of art a certain look. I use basically everything that I did graffiti with. I still use it now, which, like I said, it gives the way the look and feel of my art a very distinct style. You know what I'm saying? Because I use a lot of spray paint. I use a lot of other things that are not normally used as for the purpose of making art. So,
Right.
that's why I think what I think. And then also too, graffiti also made it so I didn't really have a structure. Like in graffiti, you're just kind of, flying by the seat of your pants, so to speak. So there's no structure a lot of times in what I'm doing. It may look like there is, but overall, I don't have like that thought like, oh, I can't do this or I can't use that and so on and so forth. So I use a lot of things from that as far as like the materials I choose to use. So that's where the influence of graffiti helps me a lot now.
So, Saran, your work, often moves, very fluidly between street culture and fine art. How are you able to navigate those worlds and intentionally, blur those boundaries?
Well, like I said a little while earlier, the process in which I make art is how I'm able to kind of go from outside graffiti culture, street art, or whatever, into the fine art world because of the materials that I use and then the way that I use them. So I think that's how I'm kind of able to straddle both. And then I still hang out with my graffiti guys, so I kind of
Right.
know still what's going on as far as that goes. Although I'm not out running around, defacing public property anymore. And then the fine art world, uh, I think I think the content of what I do is kind of like academics seem to like that. So that's how I'm
Mhm.
able to come back and forth because I don't think I'm ever going to change how I make art. So that's kind of how it works for me.
Yeah, because it's really just a part of your DNA. We all are products of our
Yes.
environment, good, bad, or indifferent. And I love how you're able to, take your environment, what was happening in your household as far as, a sense of awareness, and, that education of knowing what was going on with your community, what was important, what books were being read, and those historical figures, and how you've incorporated all of that into your art.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, it's definitely it was definitely a big influence on what I do. Definitely. Like I said, I had to read World Book Encyclopedia. It was like, and at the same time, I'm learning how to do graffiti. So I'm kind of learning both at the same time. And so now that's reflected in what I do.
So let's jump right into discussing exactly what you do. And we're going to bring onto the screen one of two pieces of artwork that you have on display as a part of the Expressive Creative
Hmm.
Soul art exhibition gallery. And the first image is Big Paws on a Little Puppy. And of course, this is depicting the story of George Stinney. Do you want to provide a little bit of cultural context and why you chose George Stinney as your primary subject?
Okay. So George Stinney Jr. was a young man who was arrested for allegedly killing and raping two young white girls. I'm sorry if I forget the year off the top of my head, but what ended up happening is he was not allowed proper, legal representation. He was not allowed to speak with his parents. He was arrested in March, and so that. him at 14 years old, you 14 years old, you don't have any representation, you're not speaking to any adult. Any adult that you are speaking to is basically out to get you. And what ended up happening is in one day in April, George Stinney Jr. was tried, convicted, and received the electric chair in one day in April. So I just wanted to kind of pay a little homage to him, because he's kind of like lost in history a little bit. A lot of people don't know his story. The image that I use there is a kind of a collage of his mugshot photo. So I just wanted to kind of put him in a position of being regal. And also the title "Big Paws on a Puppy." A lot of my work has to do with Black American culture and pop culture. So the title is actually a quote from the TV show The Wire, where they were describing one of the characters. And also, too, one other thing about this particular piece, it's all collage work, it's on wood. The hands that you see, which are oversized intentionally, those actually belong to Chadwick Boseman. So for me, that's kind of a personal thing as far as how cancer has affected my family. So I tried to put all of those elements together.
Yes. So I believe the year was 1944, where you know this child, because he was just 14 years old, was tried and convicted, and it wasn't until decades later where the sentence and the conviction was vacated. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he was the youngest
Yes.
person ever to have been executed, and it was a serious miscarriage of justice. And so I love that you selected this image, um, and to reflect George's story, because it also creates a great deal of dialogue when people come into the gallery. And some people actually, Serron, recognize his face right away and know who it is, and others will lean
Okay.
in, and start asking questions, which is one of the things you want art to do, is to create a dialogue. And so,
Right.
what is
Yeah.
really the
All of
meaning?
everything that I do. Oh, sorry.
Mhm. No, go ahead.
No, I said I'm saying, like, for me, I try to use my art as a way to create dialogue, like you said, and also too, I want to pick parts of history that I feel are kind of either being erased, or like, or not necessarily as well known. So for me, I kind of look at myself almost like a history teacher. I just happen to use visual language to teach, to do that history. And
Exactly.
yes,
And
he is right now currently I'm sorry, yeah, he is the youngest person to ever be executed in the United States.
yes, and if we don't tell these stories, we see now what's happening in society, how there's an attempt to, and I use the word attempt, to erase our history, but it's through the work of artists like you and other artists that are preserving the history and being the truth tellers, not just storytellers, but the truth tellers, and by using your platform of art in order to make sure that these stories stay alive, and that everyone knows how much injustice has happened, especially in our communities.
Yes.
So what's the colloquial kind of connection between the title "Big Paws and a Little Puppy" for those of us who are not inclined to understand the full meaning?
Okay, so like I said, it's a statement that was made during the show The Wire. There was a
Mhm.
character named Michael that was kind of being taken under the wing of uh, Marlo Stanfield, for those who did watch The Wire. Um, and there's a character named Chris Partlow who was kind of more so working with him one on one. And the term "big paws on a puppy" kind of comes from, literally, from, like, if you have a puppy, and the puppy has big paws. It's kind of a way of saying that that puppy's going to grow up to be a big, strong dog, like a big full grown dog that'll be able to kind of stand on its own. So that's where the title Big Paws on a Puppy kind of was inspired by. So that's, like I said, that's why the hands are a little oversized comparatively speaking to the rest of the body. So go watch The Wire, look for Michael, Chris Partlow, and you'll figure it out.
And you'll connect it right back to your work. I love it. So the next,
You'll understand where it's coming from.
yeah, understand where it's coming from, and then you can stop and rewind, that piece, and then look at the art when you come in and buy it from the Bridge Art Gallery, so that it's hanging on your wall while you're watching The Wire. How about that?
There you go. That sounds like a plan.
So the next piece that's on display, and there's multiple layers of connection for us and you with this particular piece, and this is a piece of art that references Ruby Bridges, and it's called 1960s What? So
Yes.
deep dive into this one,
All
Serron.
right. Okay. So um, obviously, we've all seen the Norman Rockwell painting of Ruby Bridges, her being the first Black child integrated into a school. And so, what I wanted to do is take that concept and put it and basically make it through the lens of an actual Black American person, not a white American. He can't understand to some degree what that probably felt like. So what I did was I took the image, and obviously I recreated it in my own way. And then so in the original picture, she's not carrying a sign. So I wanted her to have a sign that was giving a message to the people, to our people. And also in the original photo, she was carrying school books under her left arm. So I replaced that with a poster of Huey Newton, who also was someone that in my household had big influence. You know what I'm saying? Just the entire Black Panther Party and whatnot. So I wanted to add that as well. And then as far as she had on sneakers in the original photograph, so the boots that she is wearing, those are actually my boots. So I've started to use my own actual boots. People who know me have seen me, traipsing around town with these boots on that I wear to the studio or just wear in general. So I've been adding that. So there's an element of me connected to this piece as well. So I'll photograph my boots, and like I said, I've been adding that into my collage work just to put a little bit of myself into it. And the title, 1960 What, is also another Black reference. There is a song called 1960 What, 1960 What, 1960 Who, by an amazing jazz artist whose name is it'll pop in my head later probably, but that's where the title came from. So again, a lot of my titles come from Black American culture specifically, whether it's the title or the inspiration behind the piece.
So the title, is it a question or is it a challenge? Are you there, Serron?
Oh,
Yes.
yes, I'm here. Gregory Porter is the name of the jazz musician. Gregory Porter, 1960 What.
Yes.
Go listen to it. It's amazing.
So my question is, 1960s What? And the title, is it a challenge or is it a question for you?
Well, for me, it's a little bit of both actually. The challenge would be, I suppose, to kind of challenge people to do a little bit of research on things that you may not necessarily know or have only heard a little bit about. And because generally, when I'm doing um, my works, I do hours and hours and hours of research before I actually make something. So, like I'll learn different things. So that part of it. And then, of course, we all know what the 1960s was like.
Mhm.
It was very confrontational. So it's for me, it's kind of both. It's the confrontation, and then it's the idea that, go do a little bit of homework. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like you'd be surprised that what you type in 1960s into your Google search, and there's so many things that'll come up that, not just about Ruby Bridges, but just all these different things, all these different people that are not necessarily mainstream as far
Mhm.
as like who they are and what they did and so on and so forth. So it's like I said, it's a little bit of both for me.
So, do you see a lot of correlation between what was happening in the 1960s and what we're facing now?
I do. I see there's been a lot of protest march and a lot of, unfortunately, violence. So there is definitely a parallel. It's almost like we're going backwards a little bit, um,
Right.
which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like at this point, we shouldn't still be fighting the same fight. You know what I'm saying? Like no fight lasts forever, but sometimes the fight that we are currently fighting seems like it's never ending. You know what I'm saying? I mean, 1960s was not that long ago, but
Right.
you would think that there would be a little bit more progress.
We meaning Christopher and I, often say that the role of the artist at this point in time is so important because historians will give you facts about what happened or what didn't happen, but artists really tell the sentiment of the people, what they felt, what they're feeling, their perspective. And I do find it, really interesting and telling with these particular two pieces that are in the show that it's based upon historical figures, but it's also telling the same
Mhm.
story that we're facing right now.
Right. Because I mean, I also think like if you can go back into those stories, there's always a new way to do something. So if you go back into those stories and you dig into them, you might find a better way to do what they were trying to do in that moment. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So you like I kind of look at it that way. And again, I'm by no means am trying to allow our history to be erased because there seems to be an attack on our history, on our culture, on everything that we know. So that's why I like to use more historical figures because if you'll never be able to figure out where you're going if you don't know where you came from. It's kind of how I look at it. So that's what I'm trying to say in my work.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because you have to know, on whose shoulders you're standing on, and what principles you're standing on, and to be able to recognize, the repetition, and to be able to say, we can't allow this to happen again. And being able to show, especially these two stories of George Stinney and Ruby Bridges with during your research. And I love the fact that you do extensive research when you're creating your bodies of work. Was there um was there a particular reason why you chose these two very young people when creating these two pieces of art, because they're not very far in age when they became these huge moments in history.
Right, right. Um, I did. These two pieces are actually a part of a ongoing series that I'm working on. So I have more that I just haven't shared as of yet. And
Mhm.
all of them are children, specifically Black children in a certain age group during a certain time period. Where I think that at the end of the day, uh, conflict to some degree is a young person's game.
Mm.
As we get older, sometimes you kind of lose a little bit of steam and so on and so forth. So you have to be able to pass it off to someone else. So when these things happen, like in the case of Ruby Bridges, you got to be extremely brave at her age to take that walk. So in turn can inspire someone else to take that walk, whether that person is her age or a little older or even a little younger. Which is some of the things that I do see now. I see that the people that try to kind of fight the system, so to speak, are
Mhm.
younger than they may have been in the past. They're not necessarily, they're forced, but not forced in a way, the way that, like, whether it's Ruby Bridges or George, they're not forced into this situation. They're actually choosing to combat the issues. So that's why I've been using the children more recently.
Yes, because they serve as an inspiration. Um, there are artists that we've come across that, when they were younger, they didn't see anyone initially that looked like them in the fine arts world. But once they did, and they saw that someone was, traveling along the path that they aspired to do, then it became, encouraging and inspirational. And I think the same thing is true for, the young people who see and learn about Ruby Bridges, learn about George Stinney, that they understand that their age, meaning, being very young, is not um,
Mhm.
it doesn't limit them in being to using their voice in order to create change.
Right. And that's also a part of the reason why a lot of my titles are Black pop culture references. Like,
Mhm.
growing up, my father listened to a certain kind of music, my mother listened. So I took that music with me. And so
Right.
now being able to take these pop culture references and use them in the titles and then have the opportunity to explain to people what the titles mean, now I'm able to take culture own research, and then at the end of the day, it can spark inspiration on your, like, you can take what I gave you and make it bigger, because that's the ultimate goal for me is, you know, I make art for the people, well, for our people specifically, but
Mhm.
I also want people coming behind me to do the same thing, because at some point, you don't want to have the chain break, basically. Like, you have to kind of put it in a position where, somebody's learning from me, I learned from someone else, they're going to teach someone else, and it just keeps spreading that way.
Yeah, where that baton is being passed on, from
Yes.
generation to generation. So, Saran, when
Hmm.
people experience not only these two pieces of artwork that's currently in the gallery, but also like your larger body of work, what do you hope for the viewer to be able to um, experience or question or, draw in others in conversation? What do you want the viewer to experience with your work?
um I want them to experience the passion of the people that came along before them. And then that's how, like, passion creates more passion. And so when they look at what I do, I want people also to understand that what I do is unapologetic. I don't get too caught up in whether somebody likes it or doesn't like it. I just want to make sure that my people dig it. Like, that's all I really am focused on. So that's what I want them to take from it, is just be unapologetically you, or be unapologetically us. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't let anybody, try to dim your light, so to speak. Just be big, be bold, and that's pretty much all that I want people to kind of get from it. Anything else they get from it, great, but I just do things in a way where, I'm very, 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 very focused on making us feel strong. So that's what I want people to get from it.
So you're really carrying the baton from your parents' generation and creating a foundation so that the next generation can follow the template.
Right, that's a much better way to put it. Thank you. Also, what? Thank you. Oh, also, one other thing I forgot to mention. So, as you well know, and other people who already know me, I use the American flag, the motif of it, a lot in my work. Um, Part of the reason why I wear the boots is because I served in the military, and my
Mhm.
experience there was a little, I was stationed in Oklahoma, so imagine a black guy, a black kid from the East Coast, from Newark, moving out to the Oklahomas, but to Oklahoma. Um, and I use that motif because the way that America has treated us. Now, the red, black, and green American flag. Here's another little bit of tidbit of information that people may or may not know. Um, the red, black, and green American flag was created by an artist named David Hammond in 1990. If I'm not mistaken, it's on display right now at the Studio Museum in Harlem. So he created the original flag in 1990. So I've been using that as well. I always use it, but I've been using it a lot more, especially in this particular body of work that you'll start seeing with the yellow backgrounds more often. So don't forget David Hammons, 1990, amazing artist.
Absolutely. And the Studio Museum of Harlem just opened up their renovated building, and it is
Yep.
absolutely fabulous. So make sure you go and support the Studio Museum of Harlem, and they have such an incredible collection there
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
it's impressive. Yeah.
So tell our viewing audience where they can find you on social media and website, as well as what you're currently working on and what does 2026 hold for you.
Okay. First, you can find me in the streets of Newark. And if you don't see me there, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, social media. Serron Green is SerronGreen. If you just type it in, I should pop up because my name is very unique. So you can find me that way. As far as what I have going on for 2026 and what I'm working on, like I said, I'm currently working on the rest of the series with the yellow background and different children that I'm going to introduce to people. Um, and then, I have currently, I'm aside from me showing with you guys, I have work at the Bishop Gallery in Brooklyn. I also have inventory at GP Gallery in Harlem, and and also Richmond, Virginia. I have work there at the Southside Contemporary. So that's what I'm doing currently. The things that I have coming up next. I will be showing at Gallery Shabumi. It's in Manhattan. That's May, I believe. So I'm kind of, and I'm also working on some other stuff that I'm not going to divulge right in this moment. But yeah, I think that's it. So basically, that's what's going on up until May. After that, we'll see what happens.
Well, first of all, we love the team over at Bishop Gallery. They
Oh yeah,
have
yeah,
some
yeah.
curated art exhibitions, and they do a phenomenal job as well. So I like the fact that you teased out that you got something else coming up, but I guess they have to follow you on social media to stay on top of
Yes.
what you can't talk about now, but you're teasing out, right?
Yes, I got some stuff. I got a couple things I'm working on that I think people will really dig. And like I said, the rest of the series um, that I'm working on with the yellow backgrounds, because that's also something new. When you follow me on Instagram, you'll see, or wherever you follow me at, you'll notice that generally I tend to work in all shades of black. So the yellow background is kind of something that I reached back into my childhood and grabbed and brought with me now. So I'll be sharing some of those soon. The other ones you might have to actually come to see me at a gallery and see those in person, which I would recommend.
So what's the what was the creative choice in or the rationale in the creative choice of selecting an all yellow background?
Well, so for those who are spiritual and into yoga and stuff like that, yellow is the color of power. So I wanted to kind of convey that through color instead of words. I'll use a splash of colors, whether it's red or yellow or whatever, or even white. Sometimes I'm using it to say something without actual words. So that's why I've been choosing these. I wanted these children that I've been using for this particular series. I wanted them to be powerful. I wanted them to feel powerful. I wanted them to jump off the wall or however you see them. I wanted it to kind of hit you in the face, so to speak. So that's why I chose the color yellow.
I love that. And, I think when I see the color yellow, especially in how you've used it, I see it as almost enlightening in the sense that, and hopeful that, that the future can be brighter. And that,
Yes.
and I guess in a sense, maybe an anointing, since they're, such young children that carried, such a heavy burden, that there's an anointment
Yes.
upon them. So we have a few comments from the viewing
Okay.
audience. Um, there's a comment that the stories behind the art make the art hit even harder. And
I appreciate that.
the account of George breaks my heart. Very powerful piece of artwork. And
Thank you.
someone said, the boots, yes. So I think there's a lot of love for the boots. And love
Hey
the
man, when you see me with the boots on, I'm working.
That's right. Building up this incredible collection because we want dibs on showing this the body of work with the children because I think I can't wait to see it that whole series as a whole because
Hmm.
that's really really interesting to me, Serron. Love the biographical
Thank you.
autobiographical touch and okay, my brother, from one of your fans, and then of
Fans is
course.
crazy.
Yes. And so finally, the final comment is thank you for the great talk. Love the work. All the best to you, Serron. So I would, on
Thank you.
behalf
I
of
appreciate it.
Team Mack, Christopher Mack, and me, Cheryl Mack, we're so appreciative of you, Serron, in sharing your artistic journey, sharing the inspiration behind these two very powerful pieces of art. And one more comment. It's good seeing my brother getting out and sharing the experience.
Oh, we having a little technical difficulties.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, just more of your fan base showing appreciation and love for your
Fan.
artistry
Oh
and
man.
you sharing the work. But thank you, Serron, for sharing the inspiration behind the work, your creative process, and then teasing out too all the things that are to come. All right. So thank you everyone for joining the artist conversation around the Expressive Creative Soul art exhibition currently on display at the Bridge Art Gallery at our Wilmington, Delaware location at 213 North Market Street. This exhibition will be on display until the end of April. So you have a lot of time to catch it. And as Serron said, you can catch him on his Instagram, Serron Green, as well as Facebook and on his website. And he did not mention that he has an artist studio at Mana Contemporary. So thank you for joining the Bridge Art Gallery Artist Conversation, digging in deep behind the process with our amazing artists on display. Have a great evening and thanks for tuning in.